The rain had been falling for so long that the city outside no longer felt like a place people lived in. It felt like a memory, half forgotten, submerged under a slow-moving tide. Streetlights bled into the darkness, their halos trembling in the ripples of puddles. The sidewalks glistened like black glass, reflecting the blurred silhouettes of strangers hurrying past, each one hunched against the cold. The sound of tires slicing through water was a constant undertone, a reminder that the world beyond the hospital walls was still moving, even if time here felt suspended. Inside St. Augustine Memorial Hospital, the storm was reduced to a muffled percussion against the tall glass panes of the East Wing. The waiting area was a sterile island, rows of molded plastic chairs, the faint hum of fluorescent lights, the smell of antiseptic clinging to every surface. Somewhere, a vending machine rattled, its mechanical size marking the passage of time more than the clock on the wall ever could. The air was cool, almost too cool, as if the building itself wanted to keep emotions at bay. Daniel Mercer sat in one of those chairs, his frame too large for the space, his posture a fortress of tension. His elbows rested on his knees, his hands clasped so tightly the tendons stood out like cables. Every few seconds, his eyes flicked to the clock above the reception desk, as if measuring the distance between now and whatever came next. His jaw was set, the muscles working beneath the skin as though he were grinding down words he refused to speak. Beside him sat Emily, 8 years old, her small body swallowed by a faded yellow raincoat. Droplets still clung to the sleeves, catching the light like tiny shards of glass. Her sneakers tapped an irregular rhythm against the linoleum, not impatient, but as if she were trying to drown out the silence between them. Her gaze was fixed on the floor tiles, tracing the thin gray grout lines as though they were secret pathways leading somewhere far away. Every so often, her eyes would flicker toward the double doors that led to the examination rooms, but the moment Daniel shifted in his seat, she would snap her gaze back down, shoulders curling inward. She remembered another waiting room, years ago, when her mother was still alive, the smell of her perfume, the warmth of her hand, the way she would softly under her breath. That memory came like a flash of sunlight through storm clouds, and just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by the cold fluorescent light and the sound of rain. Behind the reception counter, Nurse Carla watched them. She had been in this job long enough to recognize the quiet language of fear. Some children clung to their parents like lifelines, others seemed to fold in on themselves, as if trying to disappear. Emily was the latter. Carla's instincts stirred, a quiet alarm bell ringing somewhere deep in her chest. Without breaking her calm expression, she picked up the phone and paged Dr. Meredith Hale, the pediatric specialist on duty. Dr. Hale entered the waiting area with a presence that softened the edges of the room. Early 40s, dark hair pulled back in a low knot, eyes that could be both sharp and warm. She knelt so her gaze met Emily's directly. "Emily," she said gently, "why don't you come with me for a quick checkup?" Daniel began to rise, but Dr. Hale's hand lifted in a subtle, practiced gesture. "Just Emily for now. We'll call you in a bit." Emily hesitated, glancing at her father. His jaw flexed, but he gave a short nod. "Go on," he said, voice low, almost flat. Inside the examination room, the air was cooler, quieter. The hum of the hospital seemed distant here, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. Dr. Hale closed the door gently and sat on a rolling stool. "Emily, I just want to make sure you're healthy. Is that okay?" Emily nodded, but her eyes stayed on the floor. Dr. Hale began with simple questions: favorite color, favorite food, the name of her best friend. At first, Emily's answers were barely audible, but with each question, her voice grew a fraction stronger. She noticed the doctor's voice was different from most adults. It didn't rush, didn't push. It gave her space. When Dr. Hale asked if she could take a quick X-ray, just to check on some things, Emily's small voice whispered, "Okay." In the dim radiology room, the machine loomed like a sentinel. Emily stood still as the technician positioned her, the smell of disinfectant sharp in the air. The click and whir of the machine filled the silence, each sound echoing in the small space. Minutes later, Dr. Hale studied the images on the monitor. Her stomach tightened. Multiple fractures, some recent, others in various stages of healing. Injuries that no playground fall could explain. Her mind flashed back to her residency years, to a boy named Lucas, 7 years old, brought in with a broken arm and a story that didn't match the evidence. She remembered the way Lucas had looked at her, a silent plea for someone to notice. She had noticed then, and she was noticing now. Stepping into the hallway, Dr. Hale's voice was steady as she spoke into the phone. "This is Dr. Hale in pediatrics. I need law enforcement and child protective services here immediately. Possible abuse case. Patient is safe for now." Back in the examination room, Emily sat on the edge of the table, swinging her legs. She didn't know exactly what was happening, but she felt the shift in the air, the way adults moved faster, spoke in quieter tones. 2 uniformed officers arrived within minutes. Daniel's expression hardened as they approached. "What's going on?" he demanded. "Sir," one officer said, "we need to ask you a few questions." Daniel's voice rose, but the officers remained calm, guiding him toward a side room. Nurse Carla stood nearby, arms crossed, watching as the scene unfolded. Inside, Emily clutched the small stuffed rabbit Dr. Hale had given her. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to meet the doctor's eyes. "You're safe here," Dr. Hale said quietly. Hours later, after statements were taken and arrangements made, Emily was placed in the care of a social worker named Marianne. As they walked toward the exit, Emily glanced back at Dr. Hale, who gave her a small, reassuring nod. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled of wet asphalt and something else, possibility. Emily didn't know where she was going next, but she knew it wasn't back to the place where the shadows lived. And for now, that was enough. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories.